Well, we've got a departing system, but it's going to open the door for bigger problems behind it. Here's that departing storm moving through portions of the Northeast this weekend, but then a series of troublemakers is imminent next week. You can see some of the blue areas pushing over the high-pressure ridge that's set to develop and head eastward. I've got all the details you need to know. Alright, thank you so much for joining me here. We're taking a quick look at the near-term rainfall into portions of the Northeast over the next, few days for us here, especially the next 48 hours as I'm filming this on your late Friday evening. You can see some of the showers pushing through into the overnight tonight, into your Saturday morning. Just a messy day over portions of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine. Yes, pretty much the entire Northeast and New England, right? Pennsylvania beginning to clear out as the day goes on your Saturday, and you can see some of the rainfall bands will be quite heavy at times, and the reason it looks like this is because I've got it in the winter weather detection mode as well. Maybe some brief snowfall bands on the back end of this into portions of New York. Now, in terms of your pattern that we're going to see developing, you can see this system and, the associated cooler air in the mid-levels pushing on off towards the north and east. This is about 20,000 feet up in the atmosphere, say here. We're looking at a dome beginning to develop here over portions of the central part of the country, and it's going to bring temperatures a good bit above average here, 10 to 20 degrees above average in some locations over the course of the next few days, and eventually that's going to be pushing eastward, and as it does so, intensifying. And whenever you get an intensifying dome, that always helps to set the stage for some sort of system to push up against it. Once that system pushes up against it, you can get the chance for some weather to fire off, and we're going to look at the remnants of what's Hurricane Norma there in the eastern Pacific to help increase the southerly flow over the plains by next Monday and Tuesday. And you can also see some energy looking like it's going to be diving on down off the west coast according to the Euro model solution that we're looking at right here. Now, in terms of your high pressure ridge, again, continuing to see it push on off towards the east and intensify some of those deeper red colors, the maroons, indicating that we're seeing, this system is really going to be a little bit larger, just a little bit stronger there, and it's really just boxing out systems for the meantime. But once you get a storm to encroach from the west and it's potent enough, you can see it kind of just push on up against that, produce some storms, and tap into the warm air that dome provides. You can see kind of a secondary pulse of energy with that dome as it really just crushes that storm as it moves into the four corners. But eventually, that pattern could degrade, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a minute. So eventually, we get the cooler air to move into portions of the west with that. We've still got some domes pushing east, but then notice as we head towards later, say about 8 to 10 days out, we start to see some of these blue colors move in from the north and not really dive on down in upper level patterns. What we're seeing with this is more of, say, cooler air entering the northern part of the country, and this looks more like a cold front setup with that second, pulse of that dome there on the east coast. As this low pressure system that's likely here, you can see some of the purple shades over portions of the Great Lakes region with the scenario. As we head towards your Halloween time frame, we could see a pretty big dip in the jet stream get going, and yes, what that really does is that significantly opens the door for a wave of cool air around that time. Meanwhile, warmth starting to develop over the west again, and this starts to make things look like the pattern would be almost going back to what we've been seeing recently with the cooler air in the east, warmer air in the west. But it would, it would take a severe weather setup for that to get going first, and maybe even a winter side on the northern part. So let's go ahead and talk about this. This is the Euro model solution here as we go in towards your Sunday. This is October 22nd. Again, the remnants of that system there in the northeast really pushing away and out of the picture. High pressure, pleasant air moving over portions of, the central part of the country, even in some cases warmer than average to a little bit unpleasant in the warmer side. Here we go, not looking at a whole lot getting going as we go into our Monday. A little bit of light rainfall pushing into portions of the Mountain West, places like western Oregon, northwestern California, getting in on the chance for some scattered showers as we go into towards our Sunday night going into our Monday. As we go Monday into Tuesday, that's when we begin to see a little bit of shower coverage and some southerly flow. The winds pick up over portions of the plains. Notice we've got some snow into portions of southern Canada, knocking on the North Dakota border for us there with some light rain shield there. Maybe a quick tap of some snow into early Tuesday morning there into portions of North Dakota. But overall, you can just see we're going to have this little pulse of energy over the northern side of that ridge. That's really just some light rain. This is the main piece of energy I'm watching for the early part of next week as we go into portions of New Mexico and Texas with some rainfall there. That lingers around because remember, it's knocking on the door of that dome that's off towards the east there into portions of the Carolinas, into portions of Tennessee, into portions of Georgia. Also notice with this scenario, the GFS makes this system stronger, but the one in the Pacific Northwest that you're beginning to see encroach there in the Euro model is something that we'd be watching as well for some snowfall a little bit further south. Notice how this system looks to extend, maybe some showers push on over the region into the northeast, but overall, the southern part of that front just, completely breaks apart as it pushes against the high-pressure system there. That's why this high-pressure system is important in the picture. And again, we'll continue to see some of that moisture maybe looking to linger around there into portions of New Mexico and Texas. And also notice stuff looks to continue staying on the northern end of that ridge. We continue to see some scattered showers push around. Eventually, we might see some snowfall try to push on the doorstep here of portions of the north central plains, but overall this is looking like rain will continue through most of the month. And then eventually we might get enough of a front to push this eastward just in time for Halloween. So Monday going into that Tuesday the 31st, that's exactly the time frame there where we're watching for a big front and maybe some gusty winds behind it and cooler air. But again, that's a long way out. We're just watching that closely as of now. With your GFS model solution, again, departing this system in the northeast over the weekend, we're seeing some scattered showers push into portions of the west. This is the exact same scenario that we've been seeing with the Euro, but this is 2 to 3 days. This isn't big agreement to have between the models. I mean, if they were disagreeing in this range, then that would be a problem. Now, in terms of the rainfall pushing into portions of Texas, showing the onset a little bit earlier with both of these little light shields of rain there, one in Texas, one in the north central plains. Things are just getting ripe at this point, I would say, into the early part of the week. It's once we go towards midweek when things are really going to get together. And look at how the GFS shows some of that moisture pulling northward. It shows that system moving out of the Pacific Northwest a little bit earlier, some energy up there. And then look at how this all kind of combines. You can see the connection here. And eventually these two lows are going to actually get pulled together and get strong enough to, become a more potent system. Scattered showers pushing towards the Great Lakes on your Wednesday with the GFS scenario. And then as we go into towards our Thursday, the 26th, look at how this forms into a pretty big low pressure system. Hefty snowfall falling into portions of places like North Dakota. And then look at how we've got this, cooler air trying to rush in behind it. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on with this GFS scenario. And look at how some heavy snowfall could even push through portions of both of the Dakotas, portions of Nebraska, into portions of Minnesota. This is a very winter-like scenario, and I don't think I want to agree with the models on this quite yet, or at least the GFS. I like the Euro scenario better, but what it does show is that system pushing on off towards the northeast, and then something new, again, developing on the plains and the cool air behind it. What does dominate, though, the pattern is the fact that the high pressure in the southeast will continue to push things up and over the ridge. Look at that, though, even showing some snow, some solid snow, no rain mixed in, pushing into portions of Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, even up into the northeast later as we head towards Halloween. This is really interesting to look at, folks, with that GFS scenario. Now, in your 6 to 10 day outlooks, cooler than average air over the north central part of the plains. So remember, this is what I'm talking about coming in later next week. That's when we begin to see this, the warmer than average conditions really get just only set up in the southeast. And then eventually, as that cooler air will shift eastward, that's when we'll see the warmth build back up into the west. I'll show you that in a minute. Obviously, precipitation looking above average over portions of the plains with this type setup. And you can see a little bit below average in the Pacific Northwest with your Climate Prediction Center outlook. And then in terms of your 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, a little bit below average there in the temperature department over the north central and the northeast. So that pushing over the dome there into portions of the southeast. So we'll watch that, and then some more warmth building back towards the west coast. By the way, this is Tropical Storm Tammy, now turned Hurricane Tammy. And I just want to let you know we've got hurricane warnings up for portions of the Leeward Islands here as a Category 1, maybe Category 2 hurricane is going to be skirting past and then curling off towards the northeast. So monitor that closely. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Here are the credits.